This course will be an exciting journey for you. Not only will you deepen your relationship with nature in its purest form, but you will also understand the process of becoming more whole and balanced. The plants have been on this earth for far longer than we have, and it's thanks to them that we're here. They've been our source of food and our source of medicine from the very beginning. We were able to evolve and thrive because of their gifts. These are gifts not only of essential nutrients and medicinal compounds, but there's so much more going on. These plants hold energies and vibrations that we have the innate ability to tap into. Fortunately, anyone can do this. We already intuitively tap into the beauty of using flowers in healing and celebratory and honoring ways. Just think of how you have sent flowers on someone's birthday, holiday, wedding, or funeral. What is the first thing you send to someone in the hospital? Or as a gesture of forgiveness? The very presence of flowers cheers us and really truly brightens our spirits. Unfortunately, the use of flowers for more deeper healing has been forgotten. But in today's world, it's more important than ever to honor the gifts they offer, as well as the very sacredness of nature. Flower essences help us do this. Flower essence therapy began back around 1930 when Dr. Edward Bach left his practice as a bacteriologist in London, and he went to Wales to transition the focus of his work to finding remedies in a more natural state. He discovered flower essences by astute study of both the plants and their undeniable effect on those experiencing various emotional, mental, and spiritual states. In his quest to find perfectly safe, non-addictive remedies with no side effects, he created the 38 Bach flower essence remedies, which are actually still on the market today. We'll go a bit deeper into this fascinating history later on in the course. Since Dr. Bach's time, there have been several other creators of their own flower essences. Notably, there is FES, which has become quite well known. Also, Rhonda Palis Downey has created her beautiful line called Living Flower Essences. And one of my most favorite lines of flower essences was created by Kate Gilday, and it's called Woodland Essence. All of these will be covered in this course. And know that you can certainly create your own. You have the freedom to choose any flower, anytime, and follow your heart's desire about what works best for you. This course provides many options for you to explore. With practice, you'll find what feels right to you. The course covers how to make flower essences, as well as learning to tune into the energetic patterns of each plant. Parts of the course will be experiential. Other parts will guide you on the essentials. We'll also spend time on how to offer flower essences to others, either as part of your existing healing practice or as a standalone practice. It's an honor, truly, to have you here, ready and open to share these valuable teachings, and stepping forward to bring about more health and happiness to those you encounter. So what exactly are flower essences? They are potentized liquid preparations that contain the energetic imprint or vibration of a plant. It's a way of capturing the plant's soul or etheric energy. We use this energy to create a transformation in our mental, emotional, and spiritual well-being. They create positive shifts in our perspective. The results of these changes can have subsequent physical manifestations as well. This is the most valuable medicine we have for helping to release those limiting patterns that keep us from living fully with joy and contentment. Flower essences open and unlock those deep blockages and congestion in our inner beings. Flower essences are based on the understanding that we are profoundly in close relationship with nature. We're an integral part of it. Our very souls are interconnected with the soul of nature. It is the flower's blossoms in particular that establish this link between us and sacred plant medicine. They teach us to live life at its fullest with greater self-awareness and to connect with our own divine nature. They offer powerful, gentle effects, allowing for our personal growth to unfold and blossom. Flower essences are purposefully simple and pure, just as nature intended. And when it comes down to it, everything in nature truly is simple. The flower blossoms are collected in their prime and infused in the sunshine in pure spring water. Each type of flower has a distinct vibrational frequency or resonance. Its subtle energetic pattern gets memorized by the water, and it is stored then within the flower essence. Flower essences are used by thousands of people worldwide in this emerging field of subtle energy medicine. They can be used alone or as an adjunct to herbalism, homeopathy, acupuncture, acupressure, psychotherapy, body work, physical therapy, color therapy, and even with allopathic medicine. Dr. Bach described the major positive qualities that he saw in people that help them lead a healthy, balanced, and productive life. These include the ability to be self-reliant, to lead and inspire others, to learning from each moment, to love and serve others, to be in charge of our own destinies, and finally, to confront fear with faith and courage. When any of these were out of balance, the natural healing potential of the body became blocked, resulting in unhappiness and physical symptoms. What we think is what we are creating in our lives. If we think a given thought for long enough, we will manifest it. When we experience disharmony, it's often because the events around us are aligning with our subconscious dysfunctional energy patterns. This energy may surface in the form of anxiety, greed, guilt, or anger. As this process repeats itself, a negative pattern becomes entrenched. These negative patterns show up externally as emotional, mental, spiritual, and even physical illnesses. Dr. Bach discovered that when treating negative thoughts and feelings of his patients, their unhappiness and physical symptoms would be alleviated. He believed in treating the whole person, not just the disease. Since negative feelings, thoughts, and attitudes can weaken our resistance to disease, flower essences work by helping us to replace negative emotions with positive ones. Positive feelings have a direct healing impact on the immune system, which impacts many other health conditions of the body. Flower essence therapy is focused more on creating health rather than sickness by enhancing our awareness. Flower essences access the deeper levels of our imbalances, opening and releasing the patterns that create illnesses. They present an opportunity to understand the impacts of certain thought patterns. Working with flower essences will help you to feel clearer, calmer, and better able to cope. You'll feel more vital, balanced, peaceful, happy, and alive. They do not create euphoria, however. Rather, they work by enhancing awareness of our conflicts and our challenges. They help us work through those obstacles and dissolve those negative patterns. They're not like chemical drugs, which just simply suppress the symptoms. Taking flower essences over a period of time rebalances the conscious and unconscious mind. We learn to quiet the mind and achieve balance and peace. Thoughts of limitation melt away, and we begin to live, think, and act in an entirely new way. Be aware, though, that flower essences may occasionally awaken those deep-seated, uncomfortable awarenesses of obstacles or conflicts. This is a normal part of the journey towards wellness and can really lead to a more complete state of health than the suppression of those negative feelings. They help to embrace the unconscious memory or pattern rather than resist it. Modern physics understands that matter and consciousness are intertwined. However, medical science has followed a model of the human body as a machine. However, there are signs that medical science is beginning to understand the impact of consciousness on health. Flower essences are most effective and noticeable when they match the deep-seated mental or emotional challenges. If only surface symptoms or fleeting feelings are addressed, there may not be as much of an impact from the flower essences. When the energy from the sun transfers the energetic vibration of the blossoms into the water, that ability to balance and restore equilibrium is imparted into the water as well. Vibrations are defined as a physical system displaced from its equilibrium and allowed to respond to the forces that tend to restore equilibrium. This occurs whenever the disturbance to the system is countered by a restoring force that is exactly proportional to the degree of disturbance. This is what the flowers have to offer us. We are going to jump right in and learn how to make a flower essence in order to show you how incredibly easy it is. Dr. Bach encouraged people to make their own flower essences with the flowers that grew around them. He knew that making your own flower essences brings you in direct communication with the plants. Best of all, when making them for yourself, they are virtually free. To begin with, you would want to spend time attuning with the plant and making that inner connection. We'll go through that process in upcoming lectures, but first let's go through the steps of what making a flower essence actually looks like so you'll know what the process entails and what you will need. You can then review these videos again if you need to, once you have attuned with the plant and have your supplies together. Flower essences were originally made from the morning dew that had settled upon the flowers overnight. This, as you can imagine, was pretty time consuming. If you like, you can gather this morning dew for yourself and take notice of any effects or reactions that you experience. However, it is much easier and more efficient to make a flower essence using the method that Dr. Bach developed. This way you can also have the flower essence on hand anytime you need them or anytime you want to offer them to others. There's no special equipment that is needed to make your flower essences. You will need flowers, of course. Find a flowering plant to work with as we go through the lessons. Choose one that calls to you the most. It's ideal to find plants growing in the wild or in your garden. However, if it's not during the growing season where you are right now, you can work with a house plant that has flowers, or you can purchase a flowering plant or even a single flowering stem, whatever you have access to and what you are drawn to. I first learned how to make a flower essence with one of my old teachers, Lise Wolf. It was early in the spring in Minnesota, and the plants had not emerged yet from the ground for the season. So she brought in a potted Easter lily for us to work with. It was really quite a beautiful teaching, and it was just simply lovely working with that plant. If collecting flowers from the wild, choose flowers that have enough abundance and those flowers that are not endangered. You want to leave plenty of the flowers so that they can produce seeds for the next generation. Gather them when they're in full blossom. This is when the plant is putting all of its energy into those flowers and when they are at their peak. As mentioned, you can use flowers from the wild or from your garden. Just make sure that the area you are gathering from hasn't been sprayed with any chemicals or isn't near a busy roadside. Next, you will also need pure water. This can be spring water, it can be purified water. Be sure not to use distilled water, since the ionization of the water harms the water's life force. Also, municipal tap water will likely be full of fluoride. Well water would be much better. Use the best water that you have access to. Just make sure that it is safe water to consume and not taken directly from a stream, no matter how clear it appears. You can carry your own water with you to the place where you'll be gathering your flowers. A quart-sized glass canning jar works really well for this. Always try to use glass over plastic when you can. I will be collecting my water from an artesian spring next to the flowers I'll be working with in these videos. You will also need a small, clear glass bowl. The dimensions do not need to be specific, but roughly 5 inches or so in diameter and about 3 inches deep works really well. You will need some scissors for clipping the flower heads. And you will also need some sort of preservative. Most often, this is simply alcohol such as the vodka or brandy that you buy at the store. Look for vodka or brandy that is either 80 proof or 100 proof. For those that are sensitive to alcohol, you can use vinegar, preferably apple cider vinegar, but you can use other vinegars. Or you can use glycerin as the preservative. You will also need a small canning jar or some type of jar with a tight-fitting lid. Make sure to have some sort of label to record what you have made. This can be a shipping label, or it can be some artistic label that you purchase. It can even be a piece of paper taped to the bottle. Just some way to mark what is in there. Finally, you will want to store your flower essence in 2 glass dropper bottles. This can be 1 to 2 ounces in size. They should be dark colored, such as the amber colored bottles or cobalt colored bottles are usually what you see. And this helps to keep the light from degrading them. You'll find where to order these in the resources section. It's best to use new bottles or boiled bottles for each remedy. Make sure all of your supplies are very sterile. A funnel can be helpful as well. Ideally, it's a glass funnel, but plastic will do since the contact duration is so short. So that is it for everything that you'll need. Select a clear, sunny day with minimal clouds for harvesting your blossoms and making your flower essence. If collecting flowers from outdoors, gather them in the morning when the blossoms are still sprinkled with drops of dew. When you're ready to gather your flowers, spend time tuning into the plant. Again, this is covered in detail in a bit, where we talk about the different ways to create a relationship with the plant. This is important for making the most effective flower essence. Have good intentions when making your flower essences. Make an offering to the plant and offer an explanation of what you are using the flowers for and what your intention is. You can offer whatever feels right to you. Native Americans usually offer tobacco. Many offer cornmeal. I often offer a little bit of my hair. Once you have made your offering and provided an explanation of your intention, listen for any sign of receiving permission from the plant. This generally comes in an intuitive feeling that feels right or very seldomly feels wrong. Plants are usually quite giving. My teacher, Yago Tanaga, explained it to me like this. It's like meeting a new person and asking if you can have a tiny bit of their hair rather than just walking up to them and ripping some off their head. This sounds really harsh, but it does really convey what is happening here. When you gather your blossoms, you are gathering a living being who is lovingly helping you. Don't feel silly about doing this. Communicating your intention creates a better energy flow from both you and the blossoms into the flower essence. When you're ready, take the water from the mason jar or however you've brought the water with you and add it to the crystal bowl, or in my case, I am gathering the water right from a spring next to the plants. Fill the bowl to roughly 1 inch from the top. Then simply clip the flower heads with a sharp scissor and let them fall into the bowl on their own. Some people consider it more pure to use sharp stones rather than scissors to cut the flowers, but I feel it's kinder to just make a clean cut, so I do use scissors. It's important while doing this not to touch the plant or touch the flowers when gathering to make your flower essence. By touching the plant or the flowers, it ends up putting your energy into the essence, and you want to avoid that, keeping the essence and the vibration purely from the plant itself. If you need any assistance, you can use a leaf from the plant to touch the flowers if need be. Gently drop the flowers onto the surface of the water. This is not an infusion, so they don't need to be immersed. I like to face my blossoms up. A leaf can be really useful for helping to do this as well. And the blossoms will just simply float on top of the water. If the plant that you're gathering from has multiple blooms, it's really nice to only take a few flowers from each plant and then go to the next plant and gather a few more. Gather enough flowers so that the surface of the water is almost covered. You don't need very many, and they really shouldn't be overlapping. Then you place the bowl full of water and blossoms into the full direct sunlight. Select a place that won't be shadowed by nearby trees or buildings for at least 2 to 4 hours. During that time, do not disturb the bowl. Just let it sit there all by itself. The amount of time that you need to let the bowl full of water and blossoms sit in the sunlight depends on the particular flowers that you're working with, and it also depends on the temperature. Once the flowers just begin to wilt a bit, then you know your flower essence is ready. The sunlight provides warmth and light and helps transmit the particular frequency or vibration and the special qualities of the blossoms to the water. Some people call this solarization. This extracts the flower's unique energy pattern, which reflects the character of that plant. If you run into any questions while you're doing this, or if you're not completely certain about something along the way, follow your intuition about what is best. It's your intuition that is most important. As you can see by going through this whole process, that flower essences contain all the 4 elements, which would be earth, water, fire as in the sun, and air, as well as the essence of the flower. The essence is that 5th element, or that invisible energy source. Once your flower essence is ready, it's time to create what is called the Mother Essence bottle. The Mother Essence is the original preparation that you will use to create subsequent remedies for yourself or for your clients. This is the base for all your flower remedies for this particular plant that you're working with. Pour the water into a jar, making sure to prevent the flowers from going in. As mentioned before, you do not want to touch the flowers with your hands or touch the water. Strain off the blossoms with the use of a leaf of the plant if you need to. Some people prefer to use cheesecloth or muslin cloth in a funnel, and I haven't found this to be necessary since the flowers are whole and gathered before going to seed. It really is unlikely that any parts of the flower will enter into the jar. A funnel can also introduce sanitation issues, since you will likely be doing this out in nature somewhere. Also, if you're making more than 1 flower essence at a time, you may capture the first essence into the second essence unless you use a separate funnel. Fill the jar until it's half full, and then return any leftover water and the blossoms to the area where you gathered the plants. It's beneficial if you offer gratitude to the plants as you do this. Then you're going to fill the bottle the rest of the way to the top with the alcohol. This is the preservative for your flower essence. Most often brandy is used, but vodka will work as well. And as I mentioned, this can be 80 proof or 100 proof. This will last several years if stored in a tightly sealed jar in a dark location and away from any source of heat. While the water and alcohol combination is the best, if you do not want to use alcohol, then simply do not add it in. The mother essence will then only last for a few days in the refrigerator, but not to worry though. You can quickly make your stock bottles, which we will make next, and those can be preserved by vinegar or glycerin, and we'll talk about that. Label your jar, noting that it is the mother essence to indicate that it's the concentrated form of the essence straight from the blossoms. You'll also want to include what plant it is and the date that it was made. If you choose, you can also include the botanical name of the plant or any other details you might find helpful, such as where it was made. From this mother essence bottle, You're going to make what is called a stock bottle. For this, you'll need one of those dropper bottles that are either 1 or 2 ounces. First, fill the bottle halfway up with spring water, or the purest form of water you can find, and the other half of the bottle with 80 to 100 proof alcohol. This bottle again will last for several years. If you prefer to use either vinegar or glycerin rather than alcohol, then fill the bottle to the top with either one of those. Glycerin stock bottles should last for about 6 months, and vinegar stock bottles should last for about a year. Then, using the dropper, take 4 drops of the mother essence and add it to the stock bottle. This will greatly dilute your flower essence preparation, which is what you want. You'll want to make sure then to do something called potentizing your stock bottle. This activates the essence, and you can do this in a few different ways. You can swirl the bottle in a figure 8 pattern. Some people prefer to tap the bottle against their palm, and others prefer to tap the top of the bottle. You can do either of these, or you can do all of these. What is happening here is that it helps to disperse the molecules into the liquid in the bottle. And then be sure to label this bottle as the stock bottle and what the plant is. Again, you can add the date or any other information that you want to add or what you think is beneficial. This stock bottle is what you would buy at the store as well. So whether you have purchased a stock bottle or made your own, from here you'll want to make your dosage bottle. Some people call it a treatment bottle, so I want you to be aware of that, but most people call it a dosage bottle. The dosage bottle is what you use for medicine. It's the most dilute of all the flower essence preparations and is the true essence of the plant. Making the dosage bottle is an exact repeat process of making the stock bottle, except that the 4 drops will now come from the stock bottle rather than from the mother essence jar. So take your second dropper bottle and fill either with half spring water and half alcohol, or completely fill with glycerin or vinegar. Then add the 4 drops from the stock bottle. Again, you'll want to potentize the bottle by swirling or tapping to disperse those molecules into the liquid. And again, label with the words dosage bottle and the name of the plant and the date, etc. In order to learn how to attune to plants, we're going to be going through a few different exercises. Just like exercising your muscles, you will improve the more you do these exercises on an ongoing basis. These exercises are very experiential, which is my favorite way to work with the plants. A few of the exercises are designed to be very linear, so those of you who have tendencies to be more left brain or more logical, you will appreciate these. The next few exercises are more non-linear. This will activate more of the creative right brain. All of these exercises are important, however, so I encourage doing all of them with any plant you're working with. These exercises will help you develop a deep relationship with the plants, similar to how you develop a relationship with another person or animal. We can communicate with the plants, not in the same way we verbally communicate with other people, but a communication felt in our soul and our spirit. In order to open up this type of communication, it requires being quiet with the plant, observing closely, and then feeling the spirit of the plant, truly getting to know what gifts it offers. Anyone can do this. It does not take special training or special talent. It just simply takes practice. You will be sitting with the plants and using the exercises to develop your sensory and intuitive awareness. You'll discover each plant's unique characteristics, and you'll begin to see and feel their particular personality. In time, as you more finely attune with the mysteries of nature, you will acquire the ability to perceive the plant's essence and the plant's vibrations. Through this process, you'll also be deepening your relationship with yourself, similar to the effects of a meditation practice. For each of the exercises, select a plant that you want to work with. Ideally, it will be a plant growing out in the wild. You can also select a plant that is growing in your garden. And if it's outside of the growing season where you are right now, you can choose to work with a potted plant indoors. That's just fine. Just make sure that whatever plant you choose to work with, it has at least one flower on it. Before beginning the exercises, be sure to honor the plant and explain your intentions. Introduce yourself just as you would when meeting a new person. After all, the plant you are working with is a living being. Make an offering with cornmeal, tobacco, some of your hair, or anything you feel would be an appropriate gift of thanks. Place it at the base of the plant, giving your deep gratitude. This first exercise is a linear or left brain exercise. The idea behind the exercise is the initial introduction to get to know the plant using your physical senses. Each flower or plant has a unique form, color, texture, and aroma. This exercise entails detailed and close observation of these. It's also a chance to sit with the plant for a while. You will be surprised by the end of the exercise how much better you will know the plant. Even if it's a plant you've known for a long time, you will begin to see it differently. This is an exercise that was taught to me by a New Zealand herbalist named Isla Burgess. She had me sit down with the plant and list 50 details about it. I thought exactly what you're thinking now, that there is no way to list that many details about a plant. But as we went through the exercise, it turned out to actually be quite easy. I'm going to walk you through what to look for and what to take note of. When we are done, you can then count up your list and you'll be surprised. So grab a pen and paper and sit next to your plant. You're going to be making a list of details. These details can be a single word or a few word combinations such as bent over or red on parts of the stem. There's no need to start writing out sentences for each of these details. The words can also be literal, such as heart-shaped leaves, or they can be more descriptive, such as feather-like leaves. The point is to hone in on your observation skills. Do this in a way that works for you. We're not following specific rules here. If you have a magnifying lens, be sure to use it during this exercise. A magnifying lens can open a whole new world of the smallest details that you would never otherwise notice. And if you don't have one, that's okay. You will just have to get in really close at times. First, begin by observing where the plant grows. If growing outdoors, is it growing in the full sun, part shade, or full shade? And if growing indoors, does it prefer a sunny spot in a south or west facing window, or does it prefer a less sunny spot in the house? Be sure to write that down. Does it like a lot of water, or does it prefer more dry conditions? Write that down as well. Now let's list the specific details. Write down a word or a few words for each observation. You do not need to go through everything on this list, and you do not need to get caught up in specifics of what it all means. You may also very well have observations that are not included on this list. It's provided simply to give you a sense of what to observe in detail. The point is to get you to know the plant on a deeper level. So let's go through the following observations. What does the overall growing appearance of the plant look like? Is it tall or short? Is it thin or wide? Does it stand up or bend over or climb or cover the ground? Notice if there are multiple stems for each individual plant or a single stem for the plant. Are there any other overall impressions of the plant? Next, let's take a look at the stem or stems of the plant. What is the color of the stem? Does the color vary, or is it the same all the way up the plant? If it does vary, does the color variation change as you move up the stem? Or does it vary where the side stems branch off? Then notice if the stem is thick or thin. Are the stems flexible or are they stiff? Does it feel hollow inside or is the stem solid? Then notice if the stem is round all the way around, or is it more of a square shape or any other shape, maybe triangular? Are there any ridges on the outside of the stem? Then take a look at the texture of the stem. And if it does have texture, what does it look like? It might be bumpy, it might have little hairs on it, it might be prickly in texture, or is the stem completely smooth? You may also take a look and see if there appears to be any type of coating on the stem. Sometimes plants can have sort of a whitish coating on them. Then take a look to see if there are any side stems. And if so, how do they attach to the main stem? Do they come straight off of the side, or do they seem to clasp around the main stem? Or do they have some sort of sheath where it attaches to the main stem? And if there are side stems, do they come off of the main stem across from each other? Or do they seem to be offset a little bit? So one might come off to the right, and then a little further up the stem, one might come off to the left, and so on up the stem. And do they point straight out? Or do they point more upward? Or do they point downward towards the earth? And are the side stems short, or are they very long? Do the side stems branch out once again with additional stems, making the plant much more bushy looking? What else do you notice about the main stem or the side stems? Be sure to take note of those and write those down on your list. Next, let's take a look at the leaves. Do they have any particular color? Are they green, or do they have more of a bluish hue to them? Do they have any yellowish or reddish color in them? Then notice how they grow off of the stem. Do they only grow from the very base of the plant? Or are they growing somewhere up higher off of the stem? And if that's the case, do they grow opposite from the leaf on the other side? Or are they offset from each other? This is a question we had about side stems, but leaves can do the same thing. They can either be opposite as they grow off of the stem, or they can alternate. one growing off the left and a little further up, one growing off the right, and so on. Are there multiple leaves that appear to whirl around the stem? How do they come off of that stem? Does each leaf have a stem of its own? Is there one leaf at the very end or not? Next, take a look at the veins of the leaf. These can be really obvious, they can be raised up, or they might be really flat and maybe not even very noticeable at all. And then how do they appear on the plant? Do they run somewhat parallel to each other from the base of the leaf to the top of the leaf? Or do they appear to be in more of a branching pattern? Then take a look at the shape of the leaf. There are all kinds of leaf shapes. There are some that are heart-shaped, some can be more oval or more rounded looking. Some can be lobed, like it would be like a maple leaf kind of look to it. Some might be linear, so they're more elongated. Or is there any other kind of word that you would use to describe the shape of the leaf? Sometimes the leaves near the bottom will have a different shape of the leaves near the top, and if so, be sure to note that on your list as well. Then take a look at the edges of the leaves. Do they have teeth on them, like a zigzag edge? Or are they just smooth around the edge without that teeth or without that zigzag? Or is the edge wavy? Next, feel the leaf to see if it feels dry, or is it full of moisture, sort of like those desert succulent plants, like a cactus? Or is it feel scratchy, or is there anything about how that leaf feels? You can also see if the leaf has some sort of texture on it. So it might be hairy, or it might be sort of fuzzy, or is it just completely smooth? This may be a good time to either get up close and observe or use the magnifying lens. Sometimes it can be very, very subtle. Sometimes the features are really obvious, but sometimes it's just really hard to tell with your eyes alone, and that's why a lens can be so handy. But that's okay. You can usually feel for these textures as well. Be sure to check for all of these features on the underside of the leaf as well. It's pretty common to have a texture or veins on the underside that look different from the top, and sometimes the color can even be different. Sometimes the underside of leaves might have a whitish hue to them that they don't have on the top, and that's important to note. And then when you rub the leaf, does it produce some sort of aroma? There are many very aromatic plants, such as those in the mint family, that are very distinctive. Or geraniums have a very distinctive aroma in the leaves. It's not only the flowers that always have the aroma, sometimes the leaves can too. So be sure to check for that. You can rub a leaf or tear a little bit of a leaf if you want and crinkle it up in your fingers, and that will really release the aroma for you. And then, is there anything else that you notice about the leaves of the plant that you're working with? Next, let's move to a very special part of the plant, which is the flowers. And here again, I'll have you take a moment to breathe in the aroma. Is there an aroma? Not all flowers do. Sometimes there's just nothing there that's very distinctive. And if that's the case, write that down. That's worth noting that there is a lack of a smell to the flower. But if there is an aroma, does it remind you of something? Does it bring back memories? Then in terms of the visual impression of the plant, you'll probably first likely to be noticing the petals of the flowers. And what color are they? Are they all one color? And if so, Where are the colors located on the petals? Is there a center of the flower that has a different color than the petals that extend from out of the center? Or is there some sort of pattern more towards the center, or a pattern elsewhere on the flower or on the petals? And if so, what does that look like? And take note of that. Then you can even count how many petals there are. Are there just a few? Some plants only have 3 petals. And then there are some plants that just have so many petals you couldn't even count them all. So take note of what your flower looks like. Maybe the flower is more tubular shaped, so it's enclosed. Or maybe it has some other unusual shape to it. Does it create a triangle? Does it create a circle? Does it create an X? Or some sort of shape to the overall flower? Are there any other words that you would use to describe the flower? Be sure to also look at the underside of the flower as well. There are often these small leaf-like structures. They're called sepals, and they look like little small leaves. But take a look at those, and is there a way to describe those? Maybe describe their shape, or the quantity of them, or is there a single layer of them right directly underneath the flower, or are there multiple layers of those sepals? Then you can look inside the flower and describe what you see. Botanically speaking, there are stamens and pistils, which are the male and female parts of each plant. Some plants have both. Some plants have just the male parts on some flowers and the female parts on other flowers. Or some plants are just completely male and completely female. And it's okay if you don't know exactly what those parts look like at this point. That's just fine. But make a note of what you see. Note how many there are of what you're looking at. Note if some of them look different from others, or what the shapes are, what the colors are, if there's any textures that you see. And the hand lens or the magnifying lens can be really handy here as well. But if not, just get up close and look. Is there anything else about the flowers that you notice? Continue to list anything else that you notice about the plant overall, and you may at this point have come up with a list of 50 descriptions, or maybe even more. And if you have a few less, see if you can push yourself to come up with a few more. When you're done, sit back and absorb how much better that you now know this plant and are now more familiar and connected with it. The next time you walk by it, you will see it differently, just like you've gotten to know a person better. You are now friends. Similar to the last exercise, this is a linear or left-brained approach to getting in touch with the plant that you have chosen. It explores the details of the plant that you are working with, but rather than through writing, we're going to explore the plant through a more visual technique. You're going to be drawing the plant. Now, this requires no artistic abilities whatsoever, so no worries if your skill or ability to draw is concerning you. The drawing you do in this exercise is for your eyes only, and it does not need to be some great artistic expression. And if it turns out to be, great, but this is between you and the plant. The point is to hone in on those plant details and to help make a connection. It's a practice to help you further tune into the plant and further build relationship. You will need some paper and something to draw with. This can be colored pencils, it can be charcoal sticks, colored markers, or even simply a pen or pencil if that's all you have. You can jot down something quickly with the overall impression of the plant, or you can go deeper and focus on many of the details that you uncovered during the last exercise. It's completely up to you what helps you to connect with the plant. Your process may even be different each time from plant to plant. This is all about what calls to you. When you have your supplies together and you're ready to begin, sit comfortably next to the plant. Visually record all of the details you see. You can draw lines, add patterns and shading, whatever you feel needs to be transferred onto the paper. You can move slowly and methodically, documenting each part of the plant in detail, or you may choose to move more quickly and swiftly, making a fluid abstract of the plant that gives you an overall impression of it. This is moving more towards a nonlinear or right-brained approach, which is quite fine. Either way you choose, this is a very strong way of taking the plant in on a deeper level and then transferring it back out onto the paper. Take as much time as you need to do this. When you're done, take the time to observe what you see. Is there anything that stands out? Standing back from the drawing, do you see anything noticeable in particular? Is there anything that you want to investigate about the plant further? Are there any revelations? Then, once you have taken the time to do this, write down 3 keywords that you see from the drawing and write that right next to it on the same piece of paper. I have to say that after having done this in several group events over the years where we compare our drawings, it always amazes me to see the similarities in our keywords. I love the idea of repeating this exercise for the same plant at a future date to compare this drawing and keywords to your new drawing and keywords and notice any subtle differences or perhaps major differences. We are now moving into the more nonlinear or right-brained exercises. This is a fun, free-for-all journaling exercise. This is the type of exercise that has the best potential to bring out those unexpected revelations about the plant that you're working with. This is the time to let go and let the plant flow through you. At first, there may be a subtle revelation, but with a bit of practice, there will be more revelations. After a while, you will surprise yourself at what appears on the page. I never professed to be a poet or even thought I could or wanted to be one. But with daily practice of plant journaling, after a time, I couldn't believe what I was writing. The plants were speaking through me, and it was so incredibly moving and beautiful. As you can tell, this is my favorite exercise. It is so easy and fun, and I encourage you to not only try the exercise, but to continue with it if you find it beneficial. So here's what to do. Grab a pen and paper. You'll need a few pages for this exercise. Then sit next to the plant you're working with and get comfortable in a relaxed position. Start writing down any observations about the plant. This can be either physical observations or feelings that you experience while being with the plant, or whatever comes to you. There is no right or wrong here. It's all about your personal experience. The point of the exercise is to keep writing as quickly as you can. Don't stop to ponder what the next words will be or worry about punctuation or misspellings. This should be free-flowing without any intervening thoughts. It's a process. You're not trying to achieve some end result. It's the actual act of writing that's important. Write down everything that comes to you, even if it seems unrelated to the plant. And it doesn't matter if it sounds silly or if you think it's crazy. Try not to get caught up in mental doubts or questioning. No one else is going to be seeing this. This is all about you and your relationship building with the plant. As you're writing, let your eyes be directed to whatever part of the plant you're drawn to. What is the most interesting to you? Is it the colors? Is it the shapes? What feelings come to you? What sensations do you feel? Does the aroma awaken some memory from the past? Is there any part of the plant that you like better than another part? Is there any part that you like less? Do you feel equally about all of the parts? While you're making these observations, keep writing nonstop. It's important to keep with the momentum to get you out of the linear mind and into the non-linear mind, to get you from that left brain and into the right brain. If you get stuck during this process, just keep on, even if you have to write the same word over and over until suddenly other words will fill in and you'll move forward. Don't think about what you are writing, just write word after word. When you have filled at least 2 to 3 pages, or more if you're on a roll, sit back for a moment, pause, and then review the words or meanings on the pages. Is there a message that comes through? How do the words make you feel about the plant? Take some time to absorb any messages received from this process. In this exercise, we will move even further into a more nonlinear or right-brained mindset. This exercise will open you up to a higher awareness of the plant's spiritual qualities. Each plant offers these spiritual qualities for us to connect with when we take the time to give thanks and to make close observations like we did in the last few exercises. These gifts also reveal themselves when we take the time to meditate and to journey with the plant. That is what we'll be doing here. This is one of the most important ways to build a relationship with the plants and to get to know them on a deep personal level. This journey that we will be doing is a common meditation that many different teachers use. I find it quite effective. The journey is similar to a meditation, but rather than the goal of quieting the mind, the goal of a plant journey is to merge your spirit with the plant's spirit. This is a simple journey, only taking about 15 minutes or so, that will help you gather insights and information about the plant that you're journeying with. Some insights will come right away, and others may continue to come to you hours or even days later. The purpose of the journey is to experience the plant without any expectations. There is no right or wrong way to journey with a plant, and every journey is different. Trust your inner knowing and whatever comes your way. You may take on how the plant lives, feels, grows, responds, communicates, gives, and receives. It's important to understand that plants are multifaceted and offer many gifts. One person may receive a certain part of a plant's gift, while another person may receive a different part. Bring a pen and paper with you so you'll be able to write down your observations and feelings at the end of the journey. Ideally, you're sitting with the plant outdoors someplace. If your plant is indoors, then sit with the plant there. Or if you're not able to be with the plant for any reason, you can simply write the name of the plant on a piece of paper and hold it in your hand. You may even hold a photo of the plant, or maybe a drawing or a journal entry about the plant, whatever works for you. This is your journey with the plant. Begin by making an offering to the plant and asking for permission to receive its gifts. You can ask the plant for guidance during your journey. When you feel ready, you can make yourself comfortable. You can sit with your legs crossed, or you can lie on the ground. Then gently close your eyes and take a moment to quietly notice where you are. Leave all the thoughts of the day and any concerns behind. Simply quiet your thoughts. Take several long, deep breaths. Inhale through your nose, taking the breath down through your throat, lungs. Let the breath fill your entire core. And slowly exhale through your mouth, letting the air take with it any unwanted energies and thoughts. Continue with these long, deep breaths until you feel totally relaxed, peaceful, and mindless. Now imagine long roots growing from your tailbone deep down into the earth. Take your breath down through this root into the earth. Notice how you grow and move in the earth. Notice how the sweet earth is around you. Now imagine your root intertwining with the root that you would like to journey with. You are now part of the plant's roots. Notice how you feel as the root of the plant. Start to move up the root and begin to emerge from the earth. Take a look around you and notice what you see. Then, ever so slowly, begin to move up the stem of the plant. Imagine you are standing up and stretching as the stem. Notice any feelings or observations. Notice everything you can. What color are you? Are you bending in the wind? Notice if there is any texture on your surface, such as bumpy or hairy or prickly, or are you smooth? Are there any ridges? Notice if you have branches or if you're a single stem. If you do have branches, are you reaching upward, pointing straight out, or bent down towards the earth? How does this feel? Now move out to one of the leaves. Notice any feelings and observations that come to you. Do your leaves have any fragrance? Notice the veins of your leaf. Are they easy to see, or are they hidden? How do your leaves look? Are they round, long, heart-shaped? Is the surface smooth, hairy, fuzzy? Are they jagged around the edges? Or are they smooth or wavy? Notice if there are any other leaves nearby or touching each other, or are they further away from each other? Notice everything you can. What do you experience, and how does it make you feel? Now, move further up the stem and move into the flower blossom. Breathe in the fragrance. Do you have any first impressions? If so, take notice of those. Observe the color of your petals. Are there only a few of them? Or are there too many to count? Do they open up, extending outward? Or are they enclosed, hiding what's inside? How does that feel? Look deep inside the flower and observe what you see. Notice any type of vibration or the kind of energy you emanate. Listen to your inner voice. Hear what it is saying. Are there any words that come to you? Take a moment to be here in the flower. When you're ready, slowly move back down the stem, saying thank you to the flower for offering any gifts. As you continue to move down the stem, give thanks to the leaves for any gifts they have given you. Now move back down into the root, offering your thanks to the stem for transporting you. Continue to move down the root until you find your own root and gently let go of the plant's root. Give a final thank you and goodbye to the plant. Slowly bring your own root back up into your body. Take as long as you need. Begin to focus on your breath once again, breathing in the plant throughout your body. Continue to breathe a few more breaths in through your nose and out through your mouth. When you're ready, begin to wiggle your fingers and toes to bring yourself back. You can gradually open your eyes and continue to sit quietly. When ready, write down your experience of the journey. This can be anything: words that came to you, feelings, emotions, thoughts, insights, anything. Take time here to really reflect on your experience and any messages you received. Notice how you feel. Don't question where it's coming from, just write. Often the act of writing helps a message to come through. When you feel finished, pause and take a look at what you wrote and see if any patterns emerge. If so, make note of those. It's important to note that no matter what your experience was during this journey, just taking the time to be with a plant brings about simple grace, peace, and beauty. In this section, we will go through the details of the Bach flower essence remedies in order to give you a feel for their use. Many practitioners and companies now have their own line of flower essences, usually based on their geographical location. I'll provide some examples to you later on so you can get a sense of what others are doing and give you a broader picture. But for now, let's start with the Bach flower remedies, since he was the originator. There are 38 of his flower essences in total. For each of the flower essences, I will give you the common name. This is what you will see on the bottles and in the literature. But I would also like to give you the botanical name as well. The reason for this is because for many of the remedies, there are many different species that have the same common name. Impatiens is a good example of this. The botanical name for the species of impatiens in the Bach flower essence remedy is Impatiens glandulifera. In contrast, the impatiens that grow where I live are Impatiens capensis and Impatiens pallida. All three of these plants are very similar, and they all go by the name of impatiens. However, their growth habit is very different. In fact, if I planted the species that Dr. Bach used where I live, it would become terribly invasive. These different species are all closely related botanically and in terms of their genetic makeup, similar to the relationship between you and your siblings. You and your siblings may have some similar physical characteristics, and you may also have some similar personality traits. But you will have some differences as well. You are not entirely the same as your brother and sister. This is why I feel it's important to know specifically what plant we're talking about. I can't assume that the impatiens plant that grows near me will have the same healing characteristics as the impatiens plant that is used in the Bach remedies. Once I have told you the common and botanical name, I will then give an explanation of the use of each of the remedies. Dr. Bach provided his description of the mental, emotional, or spiritual state for each of the flowers. A number of others have also provided their interpretations of these descriptions. Upon my review and comparison of these various descriptions, they all pretty much say the same thing. I've chosen to directly quote Dr. Bach since he was the originator. I believe it's important to not only use the remedies to relieve the condition, but also use the remedies to achieve a positive state. Therefore, I'm also including the positive and negative aspects for each of the remedies. And to make the learning easier for you, I'm also providing keywords at the beginning and the end so you see the repetition in order to help you remember them better. Dr. Bach also organized these 38 remedies under 7 different groupings. These include the following: for those who have fear, for those who suffer uncertainty, not sufficient interest in present circumstances, loneliness, oversensitive to influence and ideas, for despondency or despair, and finally, for the overcare for the welfare of others. As the descriptions of each remedy are offered, focus with intention on the image of the flower. Notice how you feel about the descriptions as they are being read. Before we jump into the 38 Bach remedies, let's learn about a 39th remedy that he also developed. This remedy is different from all of the others since it's a combination of 5 flower essences. This was his only combined remedy, and it's called Rescue Remedy. Rescue Remedy is used for emergencies, for first aid situations, or stressful situations such as when someone's about to undergo an operation. Indications for its use would include for terror, panic, fainting, tension, trauma, or shock. It can be used for those that experience a violent or traumatic event, or for those who witness one. For all of these above situations, Rescue Remedy may need to be taken every hour or even several times an hour until that situation subsides. Rescue Remedy can be taken by placing 4 drops under the tongue, and if the person is unconscious or unable to swallow, the remedy can be placed on the lips or on the pulse points, such as the wrists. Rescue Remedy can be taken long-term as well for those experiencing anxiety or fear. You can also use an alcohol-free version of Rescue Remedy for pets that have fear of fireworks or thunder. That can be really an effective remedy for them. There's an interesting story of how this remedy came to be. There was this unconscious, shipwrecked man who was in serious trouble and nearly frozen to death. Dr. Bach gave the man 3 of his flower remedies. These were rock rose for terror and panic, clematis to overcome fainting, and impatience to relieve tension. He gave these to the man at frequent intervals, and the man regained consciousness within minutes. So it's a pretty amazing story. Later on, Dr. Bach then added cherry plum for fear of losing control, and Star of Bethlehem for trauma and numbness. So this is how the Rescue Remedy came to be. The botanical name for rock rose is Helianthemum nummularium. The key words to keep in mind as we talk about rock rose is terror, panic, extreme fright, and shock. Dr. Bach says that rock rose is the remedy of emergency for cases where there even appears no hope, an accident or sudden illness, or when the patient is very frightened or terrified, or if the condition is serious enough to cause great fear to those around. If the patient is not conscious, the lips may be moistened with the remedy. Other remedies in addition may also be required, as, for example, if there is unconsciousness, which is a deep, sleepy state, then you would use clematis. If there's torture, you would use agrimony, and so on. The negative aspects of rock rose is terror in the atmosphere, crisis or accidents for patient and those around them. The positive aspect is returns person to control, courageous, self is completely forgotten. The keywords for rock rose include terror, panic, extreme fright, and shock. The botanical name for Mimulus is Mimulus guttatus. The keywords to think about as we talk about Mimulus include fear or anxiety of unknown reason. Dr. Bach states that Mimulus is used for fear of worldly things, illness, pain, accidents, poverty, of dark, of being alone, of misfortune, the fears of everyday life. These people quietly and secretly bear their dread. They do not freely speak of it to others. The negative aspects of Mimulus are day-to-day fear, fear of worldly things, illness, pain, plane trip, dentist, struggles with fear, quiet type, not easy to express oneself, nervous. The positive aspects are joy, ability to laugh, accept life easily, and inner peace. Again, let's take a look at those keywords for Mimulus, which are fear or anxiety of a known reason. The botanical name for cherry plum is Prunus cerasifera. As you take a look at this plant and study the image, keep in mind these keywords. Fear of losing control of the mind. What Dr. Bach says about cherry plum is fear of the mind being overstrained, of reason giving way, of doing fearful and dreaded things, not wished and known wrong, yet there comes the thought and impulse to do them. The negative aspects of cherry plum are suicidal, fear of freaking out, self-destruction on astral level, won't enter into situations, impulses to do wrong. The positive aspects of cherry plum are increased courage and psychic stability, and works on psychic level, a link breaker. So again, those keywords for cherry plum are fear of losing control of the mind. The botanical name for Dr. Bach's aspen flower essence is Populus tremula. And those keywords for aspen are vague fears of unknown origin, anxiety, and apprehension. Dr. Bach says about aspen that it's used for vague or unknown fears, for which there can be given no explanation, no reason. Yet the patient may be terrified of something terrible going to happen. He knows not what. These vague, unexplainable fears may haunt by night or day. Sufferers are often afraid to tell their trouble to others. The negative aspects of aspen are fears of the mind from unknown reason, day or night, vague fears, fearful thoughts of death or religion, subtle, subconscious, fears with gooseflesh, trembling, sweating, bladder kidney fears, unknown apprehension, similar to Mimulus. Helps with balancing as people open up and information is coming in too fast to handle. The positive aspects of aspen are fearlessness, inward assurance and trust, confidence, open to new experience, stable emotional body, inwardly fearless. Once again, those keywords for aspen are vague fears of unknown origin, anxiety, and apprehension. The botanical name for Dr. Bach's red chestnut flower essence is Aesculus carnea. As we go through red chestnut, think about the keywords for this particular flower essence: excessive fear, anxiety for others. Dr. Bach says red chestnut is used for those who find it difficult not to be anxious for other people. Often they have ceased to worry about themselves, but for those of whom they are fond, they may suffer much, frequently anticipating that some unfortunate thing may happen to them. The negative aspects of red chestnut are mother complex, overprotective, don't let go and let others be, smothering, anticipating misfortune for others, fearing the worst. Worry or fear in another would cause him pain. The positive aspects of red chestnut are remain calm mentally and physically in emergency, able to send positive thoughts. Once again, those keywords for red chestnut are excessive fear and anxiety for others. Dr. Bach's Serrato flower essence has the botanical name of Serratostigma wilmodiana. Think about these keywords as we talk about Serrato and study its image. Distrust of self, doubt in one's own ability, foolishness. Dr. Bach says Serrato is for those who have not sufficient confidence in themselves to make their own decisions. They constantly seek advice from others and are often misguided. The negative aspects for Serrato are distrusts own judgment, doesn't listen to own intuition, goes to others for advice, possesses much wisdom, yet doesn't trust own ability, foolhardy, scattered energy. The positive aspects for Serrato are develops intuitive qualities, listens to oneself, quiet assurance, trusts oneself to act uninfluenced by any advice to the contrary, ability to judge between right and wrong. Again, those keywords are distrust of self, doubt in one's own ability, and foolishness. The botanical name for Dr. Bach's scleranthus remedy is Scleranthus annuus. The keywords for this particular remedy are uncertainty, indecision, hesitancy, and unbalance. Dr. Bach says that scleranthus is for those who suffer much from being unable to decide between two things. First one seeming right, then the other. They're usually quiet people and bear their difficulty alone as they're not inclined to discuss it with others. The negative aspects of scleranthus are unbalance, suffer from indecision, and are unable to make up their minds, fluctuate, vacillation, compares one thing to another, Gemini, air sickness, and seasickness. The positive aspects are focused direction, stabilize and balances, calmness and determination, and quick to make a decision. Again, those keywords are uncertainty, indecision, hesitancy, and unbalance. The gentian flower essence from the Bach remedies has the botanical name of Gentiana amarilla. The keywords that you should ponder as we talk about gentian include doubt, depression, discouragement, depression from a known cause. Dr. Bach says that gentian is for those who are easily discouraged. They may be progressing well in illness or in the affairs of their daily life, but any small delay or hindrance to progress causes doubt and soon disheartens them. The negative aspects of gentian are brings setbacks to oneself by having negative outlook, are easily discouraged, and failure complex. Positive aspects include self-confidence, not as failure-oriented, conviction in accomplishing task. So once again, the keywords for gentian are doubt, depression, discouragement, and depression from known cause. The Bach remedy called gorse is botanically named Ilex europaeus. The keywords for gorse that I would like you to ponder as we talk about this plant and study its image are hopelessness, despair, and discouraging depression. Dr. Bach says that gorse is for very great hopelessness. They've given up belief that more can be done for them. Under persuasion or to please others, they may try different treatments, at the same time assuring those around them that there is little hope of relief. The negative aspects for gorse include assuring others that there is no hope for relief, bottom of the well pessimist, gloomy, feel that nothing more can be done. The positive aspects include gives hope, faith, re-enter old situations, strips away superficial layer and exposes deeper. Again, those keywords for gorse include hopelessness, despair, and discouraging depression. The botanical name for Dr. Bach's hornbeam remedy is Carpinus betulus. Ponder these keywords as we talk about this plant and as you study the image of hornbeam. Tiredness, weariness, mental and physical exhaustion. Dr. Bach states that hornbeam is for those who feel that they have not sufficient strength, mentally or physically, to carry the burden of life placed upon them. The affairs of every day seem too much for them to accomplish, though they generally succeed in fulfilling their task. For those who believe that some part of mind or body needs to be strengthened before they can easily fulfill their work. The negative aspects of hornbeam are exhausted but will work on and on, have not sufficient strength to mentally or physically carry the burden of everyday life. Life's affairs seem like too much. The positive aspects of hornbeam are that they are certain in their ability and strength, learn to relax, and lets others help with work. Again, those keywords to ponder for hornbeam include tiredness, weariness, mental and physical exhaustion. Dr. Bach's wild oat remedy has a botanical name of Bromus ramosus. Ponder these keywords as we talk about this plant and study its image. Uncertainty, despondency, and dissatisfaction. What Dr. Bach has to say about wild oat is that it's for those who have ambitions to do something of prominence in life, who wish to have much experience and to enjoy all that which is possible for them, to take life to the full. Their difficulty is to determine what occupation to follow, as although their ambitions are strong, they have no calling which appeals to them above all others. This may cause delay and dissatisfaction. The negative aspects of wild oat include delay in life's mission, out of place in life's direction, undecided in what one should do, try many things out, doesn't bring happiness. The positive aspects are acceptance of collecting experience, change in attitude towards oneself, clear vision of purpose in life, feel useful and happy. The keywords once again include uncertainty, despondency, and dissatisfaction. The botanical name for clematis in Dr. Bach's remedies is Clematis vidalba. The keywords that we need to think about as we talk about this plant include indifference, dreaminess, inattention, and unconsciousness. Dr. Bach says that clematis is for those who are dreamy, drowsy, not fully awake, no great interest in life. They're quiet people, not really happy in their present circumstances, living more in the future than in the present, living in hopes of a happier times, when their ideals may come true. In illness, some make little or no effort to get well, and in certain cases may even look forward to death in the hope of better times, or maybe meeting again some beloved one whom they have lost. The negative aspects of clematis are always escaping, not happy in present circumstances, living in hopes of happier times, when ideals can come true, disconnected from their body, schizophrenic tendencies, party lover, overweight, can't concentrate, operates better in ether than earth. The positive aspects of clematis are that it brings one down to earth, focus, lively interest in all things, inspiration to manifest, accepts one's life's problems and works with them, used to clear karma. Again, those keywords for clematis include indifference, dreaminess, inattention, and unconsciousness. The botanical name of the particular species of honeysuckle that Dr. Bach used is Lonicera caprifolium. As you watch the image of this plant and listen to these words, consider these particular keywords applied to this plant. Dwelling upon thoughts of the past, nostalgia, homesickness. Dr. Bach says that honeysuckle is appropriate for those who live much in the past, perhaps a time of great happiness, or memories of a lost friend, or ambitions which have not come true. They do not expect further happiness such as they have had. Negative aspects for honeysuckle include always want what they do not have, the way it was, don't expect future happiness such as that they have had, lonely, right side imbalance, spleen. Positive aspects include emotional and astral coming into the present, can uncover past lives, learn lessons of past. Again, those keywords for honeysuckle include dwelling upon thoughts of the past, nostalgia, and homesickness. Those species that Dr. Bach chose to use for his flower essences is Rosa canina. As we look at this beautiful flower and ponder its uses, think about these particular keywords: resignation and apathy. Dr. Bach says wild rose is for those who, without apparently sufficient reason, become resigned to all that happens and just glide through life. Take it as it is, without any effort to improve things and find some joy. They have surrendered to the struggle of life without complaint. The negative aspects for wild rose include resigned to fate, I don't care attitude, make little effort to get well, zombie-like, monotonous lives, don't complain, go through life without joy, resigned to their condition. Positive aspects include more participating and less submissive to fate, enjoy happiness and good health. The keywords for you once again are resignation and apathy. Dr. Bach's olive remedy has the botanical name of Olea europea. Think about these keywords as we talk about this plant: complete exhaustion and mental fatigue. Dr. Bach explains to us that olive is used for those who have suffered much mentally or physically and are so exhausted and weary that they feel that they have no more strength to make any effort. Daily life is hard work for them without pleasure. The negative aspects attributable to olive are pushes too hard, suffers long under adverse conditions, minds become weary and fatigued, tired easily, used in convalescence, daily work is hard with little enjoyment. The positive aspects for olive include peace and harmony, interest in life, rely on strength and vitality from within. The keywords one more time for you are complete exhaustion and mental fatigue. Dr. Bach used the species with the botanical name of Aesculus hippocastanum for his white chestnut flower essence remedy. The keywords to keep in mind as we look at the image and discuss this plant are persistent, unwanted thoughts, mental arguments, and conversations. Dr. Bach talks about white chestnut being for those who cannot prevent thoughts, ideas, arguments, which they do not desire from entering their minds. Usually at such times when the interest of the moment is not strong enough to keep the mind full. Thoughts which worry and will remain, or if for a time thrown out, will return. They seem to circle round and round and cause mental torture. The presence of such unpleasant thoughts drives out peace and interferes with being able to think only of the work or pleasure of the day. The negative aspects that go along with white chestnut include excess recurring thoughts, takes person out of present, mental torture, thoughts go round and round in the head until they find no peace, lack of concentration in daily activities. The positive aspects are a calm and quiet mind, learns to control thoughts, at peace with himself. The keywords once again for this plant, the white chestnut, are persistent, unwanted thoughts, mental arguments, and conversations. Dr. Bach's mustard flower essence remedy has the botanical name of Synapsis arvensis. The keywords to keep in mind as we discuss mustard and look at its image are gloom, black depression, and melancholy. Dr. Bach talks about mustard being for those who are liable to times of gloom or even despair, as though a cold, dark cloud overshadowed them and hid the light and the joy of life. It may not be possible to give any reason or explanation for such attacks. Under these conditions, it is almost impossible to appear happy or cheerful. The negative aspects for mustard include depression from outside yourself and hidden emotions. Gloom that comes over people like a dark cloud comes from deep-seated emotional problems, but you don't know where. The positive aspects for mustard are that one becomes more clear with things, inner serenity, joy, and peace. Once again, the keywords for you: gloom, black depression, and melancholy. The name for Dr. Bach's chestnut bud remedy is actually the same for his white chestnut remedy. It's Aesculus hippocestinum. Ponder these keywords as we talk about this particular remedy. Failure to learn by experience, lack of observation in the lessons of life, stumble, bumble. Of chestnut bud, Dr. Bach says it's for those who do not take full advantage of observation and experience, and who take a longer time than others to learn the lessons of daily life. Whereas one experience would be enough for some, such people find it necessary to have more, sometimes several, before the lesson is learnt. Therefore, to their regret, they find themselves having to make the same error on different occasions when once would have been enough, or observation of others could have spared them even that one fault. The negative aspects attributed to chestnut bud are need of repetition, resist, then overcome, stubborn, tries to forget past, and fails to learn. The positive aspects for chestnut bud include become keenly observant and take full advantage of our daily experiences, insight, development, take responsibility, often relates with beach, stubborn repetition with serrato. Again, those keywords for you to help understand this plant include failure to learn by experience, lack of observation in the lessons of life, stumble, bumble. Dr. Bach's water violet remedy has the botanical name of Houtonia palustris. The keywords to think about as we go through this plant are pride and aloofness. Dr. Bach says that water violet is for those in health or illness like to be alone. Very quiet people who move about without noise, speak little, and then gently. Very independent, capable, and self-reliant. Almost free of the opinions of others. They are aloof, leave people alone, and go their own way. Often clever and talented. Their peace and calmness is a blessing to those around them. Negative aspects attributed to water violet include lives in an ivory tower, sensitive, delicate and refined, non-social hermit type, very learned, mental rigidity, physical stiffness and tension, superior to others, more centered in the head than the heart. The positive aspects include great gentleness, tranquil, sympathetic, dignity and grace, service of others. Again, those keywords for you: pride and aloofness. Dr. Bach's impatience remedy is the species that goes by the botanical name, Impatiens glandulifera. Contemplate these keywords as we talk about this plant and look at its incredible image. Impatience, irritability, and extreme mental tension. According to Dr. Bach, impatience is for those who are quick in thought and action and who wish all things to be done without hesitation or delay. When ill, they are anxious for hasty recovery. They find it very difficult to be patient with people who are slow, as they consider it wrong and a waste of time, and they will endeavor to make such people quicker in all ways. They often prefer to work and think alone so that they can do everything at their own speed. The negative aspects for the impatience remedy are quick in mind and action, things do not go fast enough for them, instant decisions, can't sit still, active and nervous, become irritable with those slower than them, quick-minded, right side imbalance, liver, gallbladder. The positive aspects are gentle, sympathetic towards others, understanding and tolerant, and patience. The positive aspects are gentle, sympathetic towards others, understanding and tolerant, patience. Once again, the keywords to help you with remembering impatience is impatience, irritability, and extreme mental tension. Calluna vulgaris is the botanical name of the heather species that Dr. Bach chose to use for his remedies. Ponder and absorb these words as we talk about this particular plant. Self-centeredness, self-concern. Dr. Bach states that heather is for those who are always seeking the companionship of anyone who may be available, as they find it necessary to discuss their own affairs with others, no matter whom it may be. They are very unhappy if they have to be alone for any length of time. The negative aspects attributed to the heather remedy are talkative, don't listen to others, manipulative, lives on vitality of others, are shunned and avoided, gossips, tells others their difficulties, alienate themselves, not looking within. The positive aspects are selfless, understanding, willing to listen and help others, receptivity. Again, the keywords are self-centeredness and self-concern. Dr. Bach chose Agrumonia eupatoria as the species for his agrimony flower essence remedy. Ponder these keywords as we talk about agrimony and observe its image. Mental torture, worry concealed from others. Dr. Bach talks about agrimony for the jovial, cheerful, humorous people who love peace and are distressed by argument or quarrel, to avoid which they will agree to give up much. Though generally they have troubles and are tormented and restless and worried in mind or in body, they hide their cares behind their humor and jesting and are considered very good friends to know. They often take alcohol or drugs in excess to stimulate themselves and help themselves bear their trials with cheerfulness. The negative aspects that go along with agrimony are smiling on the outside and tormented on the inside. Split in personality conceals worries. Split between basic and conscious self or emotional and physical self. Prone to alcohol, drugs in excess to escape from worries. The positive aspects are integrates personality. Inwardly becomes more confident and accepting. Cheerful through difficulties. Serene, optimistic, less concerned about results. So to help you understand agrimony, the keywords for you once again are mental torture, worry concealed from others. Dr. Bach's Centauri remedy has the botanical name of Centaurum umbellatum. For this plant, we're going to be focusing on the following keywords: weak-willed, too easily influenced, willing servitors, gullible. Dr. Bach says that the Centauri personality is kind, quiet, gentle people who are over-anxious to serve others. They overtax their strength in their endeavors. Their wish so grows upon them that they become more servants than willing helpers. Their good nature leads them to do more than their share of work, and in doing so, they may neglect their own particular mission in life. The negative aspects for Centauri are doormats, willing to serve to keep from building up their own energy, weak-willed, open solar plexus, may neglect own mission in life doing more than their share for others. The positive aspects are learn to stay in own center, learn how to serve wisely, quietly, able to mix with others without losing individuality, support own opinions, and complete mission in life, uninfluenced by the opinions of others, strength in mind and body. Again, those helpful keywords for you are weak-willed, too easily influenced, willing servitors, and gullible. Dr. Bach chose to use for his fluorescence remedies has the botanical name of Juglans regia. The keywords to think about as we talk about walnut include oversensitive to ideas and influences, the link breaker. How Dr. Bach describes the walnut personality is for those who have definite ideals and ambitions in life and are fulfilling them, but on rare occasions are tempted to be led away from their own ideas, aims, and work by the enthusiasm, convictions, or strong opinions of others. The remedy gives consistency and protection from outside influences. The negative aspects of walnut for you to consider is for those with old links with past and perpetuate old patterns, astral interference, influenced by others, a spell breaker of old ties, lovers, associations, anxious to obtain goals. Positive aspects for walnut include for advancing stages, teething, puberty, change of life, consistency and determination pioneers and inventors. Once again, to help you, the keywords to consider are oversensitive to ideas and influences and the link breaker. The botanical name for Dr. Bach's holly remedy is Ilex aquifolium. As we take a look at this plant and listen to the descriptions, keep these particular keywords in mind: envy, jealousy, hatred, and suspicion. Dr. Bach states that holly is for those who are sometimes attacked by thoughts of such kind as jealousy, envy, revenge, and suspicion, for the different forms of vexation. Within themselves, they may suffer much, often when there is no real cause for their unhappiness. Negative aspects for holly include use for those who suffer much within themselves, bad temper, misunderstanding, critical, and aggressive. On the other hand, the positive aspects are for those that need little from others: universal love, selfless, unattached to one's actions, antidote for hatred, tolerant, and happy. The keywords again are envy, jealousy, hatred, and suspicion. Dr. Bach used a plant with the botanical name of Larix decidua for his larch remedy. The keywords that we should think about when we're talking about larch are lack of confidence, anticipation of failure, and despondency. Dr. Bach describes larch for use for those who do not consider themselves as good or capable as those around them, who expect failure, who feel that they will never be a success, and so do not venture or make a strong enough attempt to succeed. Contemplate these negative aspects for larch. Lacks courage to express themselves, afraid of new experience or commitment, feel that they will never be successful. Larch has the positive aspects that include beginning to take risks and not be discouraged by results, and to live more fully. Once again, your keywords are lack of confidence, anticipation of failure, and despondency. Dr. Bach chose to make his pine flower essence remedy from the species with the botanical name of Pinus sylvestris. Keywords that we should consider when we review this particular remedy include self-reproach, guilt feelings, and despondency. Dr. Bach talks about pine being for those who blame themselves. Even when successful, they think they could have done better and are never content with their efforts or the results. They are hardworking and suffer much from the faults they attach to themselves. Sometimes, if there is any mistake, it is due to another, but they will claim responsibility for even that. Negative aspects include never content with themselves, blame themselves, guilt complex, takes joy from life. The positive aspects of pine are those that want to acknowledge their mistakes, but does not dwell on them, and that is forgiving. Your keywords once again: self-reproach, guilt feelings, and despondency. The botanical name of Ulmus procera. Take a look at this plant, and as we talk about it, ponder these particular keywords: occasional feelings of inadequacy and despondency. Dr. Bach offers the following description for the elm remedy. It is for those who are doing good work, are following the calling of their life, and hope to do something of importance. And this is often for the benefit of humanity. At times, there may be periods of depression when they feel that the task they have undertaken is too difficult and not within the power of a human being. Here are some negative aspects for you to consider when thinking about the elm remedy. exhaustion from overstriving for perfection, mental and astral separation, frigid, feel they can't fulfill or live up to one's own standards, becomes overwhelmed by situations. We also have the positive aspects of the Elm remedy, which is acceptance, self-assurance, and self-confidence. And finally, the keywords again for you: occasional feelings of inadequacy and despondency. Castanea sativa is the botanical name for Dr. Bach's sweet chestnut remedy. These keywords will be helpful for you as we take a look at this particular flower essence. Extreme mental anguish, hopelessness, and despair. Dr. Bach talks about sweet chestnut as being for those moments which happen to some people when the anguish is so great as to seem to be unbearable. When the mind or body feels as if it had borne to the uttermost limit of its endurance, and that it now must give way. When it seems there's nothing but destruction and annihilation left to face. These negative aspects for sweet chestnut are for those suffering destruction, nothing left, despair of mind and body, cancer, feel they have reached limit of endurance. There are positive aspects as well of grace, trust develops within, desire to help others in despair. The keywords again are extreme mental anguish, hopelessness, and despair. For the Star of Bethlehem flower essence remedy, we have the botanical name of Orthogallum umbellatum. Let's ponder these particular keywords when we take a look at this flower and talk about its particular uses. After effect of shock, mental or physical. Dr. Bach talks about the Star of Bethlehem being used for those in great distress under conditions which for a time produce great unhappiness. The shock of serious news, the loss of someone dear, the fright following an accident, and such like. For those who for a time refuse to be consoled, this remedy brings comfort. If we take a look at the negative aspects of Star of Bethlehem, they include loss of someone near, carry burdens, sudden energy shift, grievous disappointment, shock of an accident, physical or mental or emotional. The positive aspects of Star of Bethlehem include that it neutralizes shock in any form, heals inwardly, breaks up block of time and space, comforter and soother of pains and sorrows. Again, the keywords for the use of this particular plant are the after effect of shock, mental or physical. The species of willow that Dr. Bach chose to use goes by the botanical name of Salix vitellina. This particular remedy has the keywords of resentment and bitterness. Dr. Bach describes willow as for those who have suffered adversity or misfortune and find these difficult to accept without complaint or resentment, as they judge life much by the success which it brings. They feel that they have not deserved so great a trial, that it was unjust, and that they become embittered. They often take less interest and are less active in those things of life which they had previously enjoyed. The negative aspects of willow are blame everyone else but themselves for whatever misfortune or adversity they experience, hold grudges, does not let go, deep-seated karmic patterns, feel they're treated unjustly. However, the positive aspects are for those that display or want to display optimism and faith, forgiveness, accepts responsibility for thoughts and actions. And the keywords once again, resentment and bitterness. Oak flower essence remedy has the botanical name of Quercus robur. Ponder these particular keywords for this remedy: despondency, despair, but never ceasing effort. Oak is described by Dr. Bach as for those who are struggling and fighting strongly to get well, or in connection with the affairs of their daily life. They will go on trying one thing after another, though their case may seem hopeless. They will fight on. They are discontented with themselves if illness interferes with their duties or helping others. They are brave people fighting against great difficulties without loss of hope or effort. There are negative aspects of oak, which include struggle in face of difficulties, never giving up, and thus overwork themselves. They carry burdens on their shoulders and can suffer nervous breakdown from pushing too hard. The positive aspects for the oak remedy are for those who desire perseverance and the will to rise above, reliable, dependable, untiring in efforts. And the keywords once again include despondency, despair, but never ceasing effort. The species of crabapple that Dr. Bach chose to use for his particular remedy is Malus pumila. It has these following keywords that we should consider as we take a look at this beautiful flower and discuss its uses. The keywords are the cleansing remedy, despondency, and despair. And so, Dr. Bach describes this remedy as, this is the remedy of cleansing. For those who feel as if they've had something not quite clean about themselves. Often it is something of apparently little importance. In others, there may be more serious disease which is almost disregarded compared to the one thing on which they concentrate. In both types, they are anxious to be free from the one particular thing which is greatest in their minds and which seems so essential to them that it should be cured. They become despondent if treatment fails. Being a cleanser, this remedy purifies wounds if the patient has reason to believe that some poison has entered which must be drawn out. The negative aspects for this particular remedy would be for those with pimples, rashes, fetishes, always looking for differences, feeling dirty in oneself, cleanliness complex, perfectionist, one who focuses on small areas, losing perspective of the whole. In the positive aspect of crabapple, it unites body and mind, control of one's thought, purifying and cleansing, accepting of the way things really are, can tolerate disharmony. Again, those keywords sum it up very nicely: the cleansing remedy, despondency, and despair. Chicorum intybus is the botanical name for chicory that Dr. Bach has used in his flower essence remedy. Chicory has the keywords that we should consider when looking at this plant of possessiveness, self-love, and self-pity. Dr. Bach describes the chicory remedy for those who are very mindful of the needs of others. They tend to be overfull of care for children, relatives, friends, always finding something that should be put right. They are continually correcting what they consider wrong and enjoy doing so. They desire that those for whom they care should be near them. We have negative aspects for chicory, which include the love aspect is blocked in its outward flow, turned inward to self, egotistic concern, selective of friends, and tends to control and direct their lives, always correcting. The positive aspect for chicory includes service without attachment, selfless and unceasing care and concern for others. The keywords to help us, once again, remember this plant, are possessiveness, self-love, and self-pity. Dr. Bach's Vervain Flower Essence Remedy has the botanical name of Verbena officinalis. Let's take a look at the keywords for vervain as we go through the description and look at this beautiful plant. Keywords include strain, stress, tension, and over-enthusiasm. Dr. Bach describes the vervain personality of those with fixed principles and ideas, which they are confident are right and which they very rarely change. They have a great wish to convert all around them to their own views of life. They are strong of will and have much courage when they are convinced of those things that they wish to teach. In illness, they struggle on long after many would have given up their duties. Negative aspects of vervain include over-effort, forcing oneself by effort of will, build up to frenzy, flighty, mercury influence, can't flow with slower paces, live on nerves, fanatics, and reformers. The positive aspects of vervain are even, steady flow, an etheric and health aura, calmness, listens to others, and changeable. Those keywords, once again, to help us are strain, stress, tension, and over-enthusiasm. Vitis vinifera is the botanical name for the vine flower essence remedy. The keywords that we should be contemplating for this particular remedy include dominating, inflexible, and ambitious. Dr. Bach talks about vine being for very capable people, certain of their own ability, confident of success. Being so assured, they think that it would be for the benefit of others if they could be persuaded to do things as they themselves do, or as they are certain is right. Even in illness, they will direct their attendants. They may be of great value in emergency. Now let's take a look at the negative and positive aspects for the vine remedy. The negative aspects are manipulator, ego problem, gain power over others, ruthless, demand obedience, and greed. On the positive side, those aspects include wise and loving, allowing and sharing, wise and loving teacher or ruler, confidence. So let's take a look at those keywords again to help us remember this remedy. Dominating, inflexible, and ambitious. Dr. Bach's beech remedy has a botanical name of Fagus sylvatica. When we think about this particular remedy, it's helpful to remember the keywords intolerance, criticism, and passing judgments. Here's what Dr. Bach has to say about beech. The remedy is for those who feel the need to see more good and beauty in all that surrounds them. And although much appears to be wrong, to have the ability to see the good growing within, so as to be able to be more tolerant, lenient, and understanding of the different ways each individual and all things are working to their own final perfection. When we look at the negative aspects of beech, we see mental rigidity, unbending, intolerant of others, critical all the time, conservative and judgmental, i.e. Archie Bunker, hardening categories, looking for more than is present. The positive aspects would be increased compassion and tolerance, begins to see the good in becoming more tolerant, lenient, and understanding of the way all things are working towards their own final perfection. And our helpful keywords again are intolerance, criticism, and passing judgments. Rock water. Clearly it does not have a botanical name because it is not a plant or a tree such as we've been talking about, but rather it is made with rocks from the earth. It does still have some keywords that I would like to offer you, as well as a description and the negative and positive aspects. The keywords are self-repression, self-denial, and self-martyrdom. Here is Dr. Bach's description of rock water. Those who are very strict in their way of living. They deny themselves many of the joys and pleasures of life because they consider it might interfere with their work. They are hard masters to themselves. They wish to be well and strong and active and will do anything which they believe will help them so. They hope to be examples which they will appeal to others who may then follow their ideas and be better as a result. Rock water's negative aspects include that they are hard masters on themselves, inflexible, hardened personality, strict with their own perfection, those with strong opinions about religion, politics, or reform. The positive aspects include high ideals with ability to be flexible and open to higher truth, not easily influenced. And finally, our keywords that are always so helpful: self-repression, self-denial, and self-martyrdom. There's a website here that I wanted to share with you from a group called Flower Essence Services, and you can see up here it's fesflowers.com. I wanted to show this to you for a few different reasons. First of all, if we click on product info, we can go over here and look at the essence lines we carry. So they are selling their own lines of flower essences. They have one down here called the FES Range of Light Essence. Let's take a look at that. I wanted to share this with you for this particular description right here. They say they are prepared throughout the bioregion of the Sierra Nevada Range of Light, including its magnificent alpine mountain peaks and all that flows from these heights to create lava and granite outcroppings, verdant woodlands, and oak savannas, fertile river valleys, stunning coastal regions, and pristine deserts. First of all, that's a beautiful description. That just makes you want to use the flower essences from those areas. I also wanted to share this with you because, as I had stated earlier in the course, that some people are creating their own lines of flower essences from their own bioregions, from the area where they are located. And this makes sense because they know the flowers there, they have access to the flowers there, they know the energetics of the place. So if you have an interest in making your own line of flower essences, this might really resonate with you. Also, if that description resonates with you and you don't want to create your own flower essences, this might be a company that you want to support. You might want to buy their products. So I thought that was really beautiful and wanted to share that with you. Let's go back to the product info and let's just click on one of their formulas. So this is interesting. They're actually making formulas. Let's just click on Active 8 and see what we find here. So you see a few things here that are different from what we saw from Dr. Bach. First of all, it is a formula versus a single flower essence. Other than Dr. Bach did do his rescue remedy, which was a formula, but it sounds like they are doing formulas. And the indications are really different. It's not just focusing on the negative, which Dr. Bach did quite a bit, but this is focusing on the negative and the positive. Let's just take a look at some of these indications. First, we have use at the outset of any new project or work endeavor to facilitate a seed fire of positive alchemical forces and new directions. I just love that. It actually makes me want to purchase this flower essence formula and take it. Also, they go on to say, when a soul's ability for positive manifestation is routinely hampered by hesitation, apathy, or procrastination. To catalyze the general expression of positive yang or masculine fire forces for both men and women. So they're really focusing here on that positive aspect. When needing to assume an affirmative leadership role in family, community, or work situations, especially if there is doubt or hesitation about such role. And then they finally sum it up with to help sustain or renew one's energetic commitment to a project or task when beset by delays, obstacles, or opposition. So this is really beautiful writing. It describes the flower essence formula really well. And in fact, it's actually quite very good marketing wording, I would have to say. Let's take a look at the ingredients. Boy, there are quite a few ingredients in here. This is quite a formula. Again, very different from what Dr. Bach did. And here they have further descriptions of what each one of these particular ingredients is doing. And these all support that overall indication that we just went through. So this is really interesting, and I wanted you to just be aware of what this group is doing. You can poke around the website and look at some of their products and get some ideas for what other people are doing with their flower essences. There's one more thing on this website that I wanted to share with you, and it's down here. For those of you who are interested in becoming flower essence practitioners, they have a feature here which you might want to check out. It is the practitioner discount program, and it has a couple of interesting parts to it. First of all, there's the practitioner discounts. So if you are working with flower essences and offering them to other people and you don't want to make your own, you can purchase from this company and get your 20% off the retail price. So that's good. But there's something else here that I thought was really a brilliant idea. It's the practitioner research program. So what they are doing is gathering case studies from practitioners and putting them into a database and seeing where there are similarities or where there is information from this collective pool of knowledge. I think this is really very brilliant because that information can help all of us, not just this group, but any practitioners. This would be an invaluable database to be able to have access to and to take a look at. I also do have a practitioner referral network here too. So you might want to take a look at this and poke around here a bit if you're interested in being a practitioner. I think this could be really very valuable for you. Here's a website that I wanted to share with you called Woodland Essence, and you can find it here at woodlandessence.com. This is a company that was started by a friend of mine, Kate Gilday. She and I teach at herbal conferences together, and she's just a brilliant herbalist and has this wonderful product line that I wanted to take a look at for a couple of different reasons. So she does have a number of different products here, but it's the flower essences that I really wanted to focus on with you. So you can see here she has a couple of different lines here, the at-risk essence, the chakra essences, forest floor essences, shrub essences, and then a couple of tree essences. And she lives in the forest with her husband in the Adirondacks. In fact, they are certified New York State guides, so they take people out into the forest. They really are, I think, both of them part tree, actually. So I'm not surprised to see that they are doing these really forest-focused essence lines. These are created from the area where they live and the area where they are most comfortable. They really radiate that energy of the forest. So if this is something that resonates with you, you might want to support them and purchase their essences. I also might give you some ideas for what other people are doing. Let's just click on the at-risk essences. This is one of the first lines of flower essences that I ever purchased. In fact, it's about 20 years old now. I still have it. I still use it. It's lasted that long. The packaging is completely different now. They've updated their branding and everything else. But the concept is still there. These are the plants that are included in the at-risk essence. And why it's called the at-risk essence is because Kate is very familiar with United Plant Savers, and if you've taken my other courses, you've probably heard me talk about them before. The United Plant Savers is a nonprofit that is focused on saving those plants that are at risk of becoming endangered, either due to land use problems that are quickly being degraded or disappearing, or it could be due to over-harvesting reasons. And so these are the plants that we need to be careful of as herbalists to either not use or use very rarely for very specific situations. So what Kate has done is make flower essences from these plants that carries the energetics of those plants. But what she did, which was so brilliant, is that she didn't actually pick the flowers or cut the flowers or gather them to put them in the flower essence bowl. She tipped the flower essences and tipped the flowers into the bowl to make the essences, so she did no harm to the plants. And I think that's really beautiful. She also describes these flower essences with such passion. Let's just read this description so you get an idea of where she's coming from and what this group of flower essences does. She says, "These native medicinal plants hold an ancient knowledge and memory of the northern forests where they quietly grow. To seek these untamed flowers, one must enter the deeper woods with open eyes and soft attention. In this way, one's internal dialogue recedes as one simply becomes present to the moment and environment." That is just simply beautiful. She also goes on to say, "The at-risk indigenous flowers connect one to the wisdom held in the wild places of the land and one's inner landscape. Their essences guide one to more clearly face the deeper issues, old patterns, and stories that have shaped one's life. These flowers encourage an awareness, clarity, and vision in seeing new possibilities as they offer support and guidance as one begins to trust one's inner wisdom and embrace life more fully." So again, you can see what she is talking about here. She has such a deep reverence for the forest and these plants that are at risk. And again, it is just really beautiful marketing language as well, just in case you decide you want to sell your own line of essences. It's nice to see what other people are doing. And this really is a more positive approach than what we saw from Dr. Bach. She's seeing more fully what these plants can offer, not just the negative aspects, but the positive aspects as well. Let's just click on one of these plants and see what she has to say inside. So this is the American ginseng flower, and she says it encourages a sense of vitality, strength, and support, restorative, helps in releasing fear of expressing true self and accepting personal power, may support one in feeling whole and alive. That just sounds like a flower essence I would want to take. And actually, I have taken this flower essence before. I've tried all of hers. I believe there are 9 flower essences in this line. And they just simply are beautiful. Let's see what else we have on here. Let's just take a quick look at the chakra essences. So this one deviates a little bit from the whole idea of the flower essences being from the forest. But in this case, she is working with the chakras, and there are 9 essences rather than 7, but she has 9 here. And you can just take a look at these and see what she is saying about how the flower essences are similar to particular chakras and how she has developed these. We'll just click on the second chakra here and see what she says. First of all, it's interesting that she is formulating. So she is working with several different flower essences here for this particular chakra. And again, this is different from what Dr. Bach did. He only used single essences other than the rescue remedy. But it looks like she is combining different flower essences for a particular purpose. About this one, she says, connection to the source of creativity within, clarity in one's sense of purpose and direction, enhances belief in oneself, resolving doubts and fears as one continues to grow, restores sense of playfulness and joy. And again, that just makes me want to take that flower essence. It just sounds so beautiful. And this is just a very different vibe from what Dr. Bach was writing about in terms of his flower essences. So I hope this gives you some ideas of what other people are doing and what you might come up with if you are making your own. Or it might give you some ideas of what flower essences you want to purchase for either yourself or for your particular practice. I'd like to share a book with you that talks about flower essences a little bit differently than anybody else that I have seen. And so I think this will be really important for you to be aware of and maybe even purchase the book if this is something that interests you. It's written by Rhonda Pallas Downey, and it's called The Complete Book of Flower Essences. Rhonda has been working with flower essences for several decades now and knows them just as well as anyone I know. She did have a line of flower essences called Living Flower Essences, but I believe she has retired at this point. I'm not sure that that line of flower essences is still available, but the information in this book is still really invaluable. I'd like to show you a couple of things in particular. First of all, she goes in depth into using flower essences in conjunction with working with the chakras. Some other people, such as Kate Gilday, do work with the flower essences and chakras as well, and there are some other people that do. But nobody goes into quite as much depth as Rhonda does, and I think this is really interesting. For each one of the chakras, she has lists of which flower essences will work with those chakras based on the color. So she has red flower essences. She has orange flower essences. For example, here she's working with the California poppy. She's working with blanket flower. She's working with calendula. So she's using the color aspect of those flower essences in order to work and align more closely with each particular chakra. And she goes through all the other different colors of the other chakras as well. She goes through all 7 of them. And she goes on through pages and pages for each one of these chakras and really has some invaluable information in here for you. The other thing I wanted to show you is how in-depth she goes into each particular plant. So in her living flower essences, she has worked with, I'm not sure how many plants, to be honest, but several dozen plants. And she really provides detailed information for each one of her flower essences. She knows them really, really well. She talks about, for example, the traditional use of the plant, if there was one. So for example, we're looking here at mullein, and that is used traditionally in herbal medicine. And so she goes through that information so you get sort of a background picture of this plant and how it's used in other different kinds of ways. She then also talks about the homeopathic use of the particular plant, which is somewhat like flower essences, but it is a different discipline. So I just want to make that clear. But it is interesting that she is not only talking about the herbal uses, but the homeopathic uses. Here she is mentioning the positive healing patterns of the plant, the symptoms and patterns of imbalance of the plant. There's a lot of information here to take a look at for each individual plant. She also talks about features of the original flower essence water and the physical makeup of the plant. She goes into the doctrine of signatures, which is very fascinating. So if you take a closer look at some of these doctrine of signatures, it can really tell you a lot about the plant just by looking at it and observing. It may look like a part of the body, or it may look like one of the organ systems of the body. It might look like a particular issue or situation that someone is having. There's all of these physical characteristics that can be visualized as well in order to help you determine what that particular flower might be used for and how it might be used as a flower essence. She also goes on to helpful suggestions, affirmations, and here's the part that I really like the most, is the case history information. She has so much experience of working with clients that she has really developed a very in-depth case history and shares those with you in this book for each one of her flower essences. So in addition to the emotional symptoms of each one of these plants, which she has patterns of balance and patterns of imbalance, but she's also going into the physical symptoms and the mental symptoms and the spiritual reflections and even dreams and nightmares. So she is going so in depth into each one of these plants that you really get to know it and you really get to see a bigger picture of who this plant might be appropriate for. This book is just a wealth of invaluable information, and I wish that her line of flower essences was still available, but I just have a feeling that I think she's retired from that. But if you wanted to make your own mullein flower essence, for example, or any of the other plants that you find in this book, then it gives you that deep insight that she's already spent decades and decades of working with people and understanding these plants like no one else. So this is a very good resource for you. Hopefully you can still find it. This book is quite old at this point, but the information is simply timeless. Before we get into dosages and how to take flower essences, let's look at 2 different ways of working with the remedies. First, You can take or recommend flower essences one remedy at a time. This is the best approach when you're first starting out. This will give you a better sense of what is working and what is simply having no effect. Once blockages start to release and a shift occurs, the flower essence can then be changed up as needed. You can then work on the next deeper emotional layer. In this way, you can change the remedies as the situation changes. Note that there may be a temporary increase in symptoms as those blockages and negative patterns are released. This is certainly not always the case, though. While some may only need a few doses to see a positive change, others may need to use the same flower essence for several weeks or several months to work on a particular problem. Each individual and each situation is different. Children and elderly people tend to be more sensitive and react more quickly to flower essences. Observe the response and make any adjustments as needed. As you gain experience, you can start to combine up to 4 essences, focusing on key issues. I recommend up to 4, but there's no specific rule here. In making a combination, it's important to consider how the essences work together. Use your intuition and what you're comfortable with and what calls to you. This is the beauty of how flower essences work. You'll eventually get a feel for what works for you. When working with a combined remedy, use 4 drops from the stock bottle of each essence to be put into the dosage bottle. Now let's talk about dosing and actually taking the essences. First, be sure to shake the essence each time before using. You can take 4 drops of the dosage bottle and simply drop that under the tongue 3 times a day. It's important to do this at least 15 minutes away from food or liquids other than water. This includes 15 minutes away from brushing your teeth as well. For emergency situations, flower essences may need to be taken every hour or even several times an hour until the upset or the panic subsides. We'll talk more about taking flower essence for emergencies in the lecture about the Bach flower rescue remedy. When taking flower essences, it's important to be careful not to touch the dropper to any part of the mouth to avoid any possible contamination with bacteria in the mouth. You can also take 4 drops of the stock bottle and place it in a tall glass of water and sip that throughout the day. This will provide a sufficient dilution for the energetics and the vibrations of the essence to have an effect. This is a good way to work with essences for those that do not want to taste at all any of the alcohol or vinegar or glycerin under the tongue. If working from the stock bottle drops in a glass of water, be sure to stir the flower essence into the water clockwise and then counterclockwise, again to disperse those molecules into the liquid. If you are finding that after 3 weeks of the essence not working, it could be for a few different reasons. Either it was the wrong remedy, or the frequency of the dosages may need to be increased to 4 times a day. Don't increase the size of the dose. That would work for remedies acting physically on the body, but here we are working energetically. Flower essences build on their activity in the body. Therefore, the effects are increased by frequency of dosages, not by increasing the dose. Also consider it simply may take more time for the essence to work on those very difficult, long-standing, and deep-seated blockages. When taking the remedies, it's important to take a quiet moment to focus on the intention of what you are trying to release or what you are trying to achieve. The clearer the intention, the better. Take this time to listen to the inner voice and pay attention to what you're feeling. Listen to the subtle energies of the plant. It's also beneficial to engage in activities that work synergistically with the flower essences. This could include journaling or using positive affirmations that help access the subconscious. This helps greatly to observe any shifts that are happening. It may reflect shifts in mood or behavior. So when do you stop using a particular essence? An essence remedy should be discontinued when either you or the person you are working with feels that shift and feels that they have fully released the blockage or that unwanted energy. This may be a week or two after they have started to feel the shift. It's important to fully ingrain this new way of being and perceiving life. If switching up remedies and working long-term at deeper and deeper levels, it's wise to wait a week before changing to the next remedy. So far, we have talked about taking flower essences either under the tongue or in a glass of water. But there are other ways as well, which are by using them topically on the skin. These can be a way to take flower essences for those sensitive to alcohol, or for those who are unable to swallow, or for those who are unconscious. They can also be taken in the following ways: as an addition to, or to supplement taking them orally. For each of these ways, use your stock bottle of flower essence. And similar to taking the remedies internally, be sure to shake the bottle before each use to help maintain its potency. The first and most basic application is to simply apply a drop of the essence on the skin. The best places to do this would be on the wrist or the pulse points. You can also put a drop behind the ear. Or if you're familiar with the energy centers of the body, these would be ideal places to enhance your energetic work there. Roller bottles work really well for this. These are the bottles that are often used for making perfumes or for working with essential oils. You can often find them offered from the resources listed in this course. Each roller bottle should include 1/2 pure water and 1/2 alcohol, and 4 drops from the stock bottle. A mister or a spray bottle can be used in the same way. Fill it as you would the roller bottle, then simply spritz the area of the body you're working with, whether it be the head or a specific part of the body. You can also mist the whole body. You can also add 4 drops of the stock bottle to your bath water. This is a lovely way to fully appreciate the energies and energetics of your chosen flower essence. Stir the bath water in a gentle figure 8 motion to potentize it before hopping in. Soak as long as you like, and there's no need to rinse off afterwards. 4 drops of flower essence can also be added to any cream or salve that you make. I talk about making these in my other courses, and maybe you're already making your own. Flower essences make a very beneficial addition to creams and salves if you're working on both the physical as well as the connected emotional, mental, and spiritual issues at the same time. For those providing massage, acupressure, acupuncture, or chiropractic services, 4 drops of the flower essence from the stock bottle can be added to the massage oil you may be using. As you can see, there are several ways to use flower essences, and no one way is more correct than another. This is the true beauty of flower essences. Let's address two different aspects of safety when working with flower essences. The first is related to gathering plants from the wild and making your own essences. Then we will talk about the safety of actually taking the essences. Flower essences contain such a minuscule amount of the plant chemical compounds that they are barely detectable in the stock bottle and even less detectable, if even at all, in the dosage bottle. Rather, flower essences work by relying on the imprint of the plant's subtle energy pattern. That is what made Dr. Bach so attracted to flower essences. It was that they were completely safe. You could make a comparison of working with flower essences to homeopathic remedies. In homeopathy, you're working with substances that are at times poisonous when taken in physical quantities, but are quite safe and actually beneficial when taken in highly dilute form. This is the same with flower essences. A caution would be to not touch the leaves of any plants that are known to cause contact dermatitis, which creates a rash on the skin. There are actually very few plants that do this, but you should be aware of the ones in your area. As mentioned earlier in the course, you are never touching the flowers when making your flower essences. I would also advise not to use one of the very rare deadly plants just as an extra precaution. I'm certain others would disagree with me on this because of the extreme dilution of the preparations, but I always side with safety first. As for safety of taking the flower essences, they are so pure, gentle, and harmless, there is no need for worry about taking them or offering them to others. You do not need to worry about someone erroneously taking too much or taking them too often. You also do not need to worry about giving the wrong remedy, since if you do, you simply will not notice any effect. They're quite safe for babies, children, elderly, and animals. Although in each of those cases, I would choose a non-alcohol-based preparation. There are no side effects or contraindications of taking flower essences with prescription medication or any other complementary remedies such as herbal remedies, homeopathic remedies, or nutritional therapies. As mentioned earlier, flower essences can at rare times stir up deep-seated emotions that somebody may not be ready for, and this can cause an inner conflict. While this is part of the process, it might be wise in those cases to discontinue for a time or lessen the number of doses for those that are not quite ready for this. An intuitive approach to selecting flower essence remedies differs from a clinical approach, which we'll be talking about later on. An intuitive approach relies more on a subtle inner perception and awareness. The guidance you'll receive comes from trusting your feelings and your instinct. This approach can be used when selecting flower essences for yourself or when working with a client. Begin by gathering your intention. The goal is to release energy blocks and stagnation, allowing that energy to flow. Ask yourself or your client, what would you like to let go of? What would you like to change? What are the key issues? What emotional, mental, and spiritual issues are most important for your health and growth? This requires honest self-reflection. Taking the time to sit in silence can be really helpful during this process. Meditation can be an exceptionally valuable tool for this. This is a time to connect with your inner knowing. This is where those important messages and insights that need to be paid attention to will begin to emerge. If you are just getting started, with flower essences, choose your most basic and obvious issue first. Based on your chosen priority, you will then select your flower essence. Compare the patterns of imbalance with those listed for each remedy. Look at the descriptions or keywords for what matches the imbalance. Look for the positive aspects as well as for what you wish to achieve. Allow yourself to feel any particular quality that stands out. You can look at photos of the plants for each essence. Do any in particular resonate with you or bring a sense of familiarity? Choosing an essence can actually be as simple as selecting a flower that you're naturally drawn to. Visualization and imagery can be helpful here. You may even want to do a plant journey similar to the one we did earlier in the course. Another technique is to slowly place your open palm over each of the remedy bottles to see if you get any particular sensation from one or more of them. This could be a tingling sensation or a feeling of warmth, and this will get easier with practice. Flower essences are most effective for those who are ready for change and personal growth. They're also most effective for those who want to take responsibility for their actions, for their emotions, and for their spiritual awareness. When selecting the flower essence remedy, remember there is no wrong choice. If the chosen remedy does not seem to be working, simply choose a different one. You may prefer to work only with the 38 Bach flower remedies, but you may also wish to work with a different company's remedies, or you may want to work with the flower essences that you've made yourself. And maybe it turns out you find it helpful to work with a variety of them. Over time, you'll just find what works best for you. Also, as you gain experience, you may start to combine the essences into formulas. A clinical approach may be more appropriate when working with clients as a flower essence practitioner. Similar to the intuitive approach, you may prefer to work with only the 38 Bach flower remedies or a different company's remedies, or you may wish to work with the flower essences that you have made yourself. A clinical approach involves two activities. The first is careful observation of the client, and the second is through a questionnaire. First, you'll need to discover what the client is coming to see you for. Why are they there? Similar to the intuitive approach, you may ask what they would like to change, what they would like to let go of, what are the key issues, and what emotional, mental, and spiritual issues are most important. Once that has been determined, you can begin your two information gathering activities. Start by observing your client to notice if there are any outward signs of any inward imbalances. Body language and facial expressions can say a lot about someone. So can the tone or speed of their speech. Try to notice if their eyes are dull or bright. What is their body type? Are they tense or are they relaxed? Do they appear nervous, shaky, or tenuous? Do they appear generally happy? Do they appear upset, sad, or angry? Do you get an overall sense of any other emotions that they may be exhibiting? Once you've taken careful notes of any observations that you have, then you will go through a set of questions with them. These can be any questions you feel are important to ask. You can do this through a client intake form. This form can be mailed to them ahead of time and filled out prior to the consultation and then sent back. And this way you'll have a written record of the case, and it gives you some information that you can look up ahead of the consultation. But it also can be done verbally in person with the client when they arrive for the consultation. And in this way, you can observe their response, and then you can ask any follow-up questions at the time. The goal of the intake form is to gain a bigger or a broader picture of the mental, emotional, and spiritual well-being of that client. It's important to understand that some clients will willfully answer questions, whereas other clients may be a bit more reserved with giving out that information. Be sure to let them know that the information on that form will be kept confidential. Each form should request contact information such as their name, address, phone number, and email address. Then include the questions that you feel are important. It's helpful to ask open-ended questions rather than yes or no questions in order to get that better feedback from them. Here are some examples of questions you may want to ask. First of all, you'll want to know, how long has this been an issue? And this is important for a couple of reasons. First of all, if it's a long-standing issue, it's going to take longer to resolve. But it also gives you some information as to whether this is something that they're having a hard time letting go of, if they've been hanging on to it for many, many years. You may also want to find out if they are sleeping well, and if they're having dreams or having nightmares. And this might give you an indication also of their energy levels and their stress levels, so you want to ask about those as well. You'll want to ask if they are consuming alcohol or drugs, and if so, how much. You also want to know how they handle challenging issues. You'll want to know if they worry often, and if so, what are they worrying about? You can ask about what their patience level is. The next few questions will provide actually quite a great deal of information for you. You can ask them to describe their work situation. You can ask, how would your coworkers describe you, or how would your family and friends describe you? It's important to know that in what ways they feel appreciated or not appreciated. If you ask what their overall emotional state is, that will provide a great deal of information for you also. You can ask what their confidence level is. You can ask what makes them happy, and are they allowing enough time for those activities? And a really important question is, what would you do differently if you could? So I hope this gives you some ideas of how to gather information from people. The answers to these questions may lead to further questioning if any of them really stand out to you, or if you start to see a pattern. Once you've selected the appropriate flower essence remedy for your client, and you've made up the dosage bottle, be sure to write everything down for them. This would include the name of the remedy, how to take it, and how often. Dowsing with a pendulum can be a useful tool, whether working with flower essences for yourself or for others. What is happening with dowsing is that the subconscious is communicating with the nervous system. This lets you step aside and let the energy decide the right remedy. First, you'll need a pendulum. And a pendulum is essentially a small item attached to the end of a chain or a string. And ideally, this is something special, such as a crystal or special stone or a gem. It can be as simple or as decorative as you like. Here's a pendulum that I received from my dear teacher and friend, Rosemary Gladstar, a beautiful gift that I have continued to use throughout the years. You will be developing a relationship with your pendulum over time. You want to start by learning to interpret your pendulum. You're going to do this by determining a yes or a no movement from the pendulum. Certain ways of swinging indicate positive or negative answers. You'll figure this out by holding the end of the string or chain between your thumb and index finger. You can then position the pendulum several inches above the palm of your other hand. You can gently let the pendulum start to swing back and forth for a while, asking the pendulum for clarity to show you a yes or positive answer. Then observe how it moves. It may move in a circle, either clockwise or counterclockwise, or it may swing back and forth. Then do the same thing, asking for the pendulum to show you a no or a negative answer. And again, observe how it moves, moving either clockwise, counterclockwise, in a circle, or swinging back and forth. This is what we call dowsing. Next, while holding the pendulum above the palm, ask simple yes or no questions and answer those out loud. This might be as simple as, is your name Elizabeth? Or is your name Paul? If working with a client, hold the pendulum over their palm and have them answer out loud. Just as you did before, observe how the pendulum behaves. Determine a yes movement or a no movement. If you're unsure of your answers, just keep practicing until you feel confident. And once you are confident and you've determined your yes or no movements, then you can begin to work with yourself or clients to help determine the appropriate flower essence remedy. You can do this in one of two ways. Both ways will be using the stock bottles for the dowsing. You can line up the flower essence bottles and place the pendulum over each of the remedies one by one and asking if it is the right remedy and for the pendulum to show you a yes or a no. Take your time with this as you go through each one of the remedies. You can also place a flower essence bottle either in your hand or the hand of your client and hold it in front of the center of the body and then use the pendulum to indicate whether this is the right remedy. Do this slowly and give the pendulum the opportunity to give you the strongest reading. Either way you choose as you go through each remedy, place the remedies with a yes aside. If there are any that you're unsure of, place those in another group, and any that give you a no response can be put away. Once you've gone through all of your remedies and have a few with a yes response, you can douse them again to make sure you get good, clear readings on them. You can also recheck the ones in the group that you were uncertain of to see if you get a more clear message from those. You can repeat this until you feel confident about the final selection. You may get down to a single remedy, or if you choose, you may get down to a few remedies that you may wish to combine in the dosage bottle. Muscle testing can be an effective way to determine which flower essences are appropriate either for yourself or for your client. Some people, such as chiropractors and physical therapists, also call this applied kinesiology, so you may hear that term as well. But when working with flower essences, you'll generally and usually hear it referred to as muscle testing. It works by testing for strength or weakness in response to each of the flower essences. If it's an appropriate remedy, there will be strength. If it's not an appropriate remedy, there will be weakness. This is similar to getting a yes or no response when dowsing with a pendulum. You can do this for your client, but if muscle testing for yourself, you're going to need someone to help you. First, begin by determining the strength of the person being tested. Have them stand with the strongest arm extended out to the side and parallel to the ground with an open palm facing down. Have the person doing the testing apply 3 middle fingers on the wrist and gently press down to get a sense of the client's strength. Next, you're going to test with each one of the flower essences. Use the stock bottles for this. Line them up and one by one, have the person being tested hold a bottle in the front of the center of their body with the arm that is not the strongest. Then, as we just did before, have them hold their strongest arm out to the side, palm face down. Test by applying 3 middle fingers on the wrist and gently press down to get a sense of the client's strength. If the arm becomes stronger, then that is a good remedy for them. Set those remedies aside and continue. Now, if the arm becomes weaker when you test it, then that is not the right remedy for them, and then put those away. If it stays the same and you're really not sure, then just set those remedies aside and test them again later. It's important not to test too much during one session. Allow the client or the person to rest in between or to switch up arms. Similar to working with dowsing, you may get down to a single remedy, or if you choose, you may get down to a few remedies that you may wish to combine in the dosage bottle.